Hey guys, this episode I have my friend Ashley Chastain, and if you guys are a listener of the podcast, you might feel like that name is familiar, and it's because it is. Matt Chastain was my first guest. He's my best friend, and this time I had his wife on, and we went a little different direction this time for this episode. You know, obviously a lot of what I talk about is around sports and fitness and life. Ashley did play field hockey. We talk about that. But what was important for me and what I wanted to get out there was her story and her passion around the work that she does. So you're going to learn about her company, Complete ABA, why she does it, why autism is important to her, and the desire to always help and, help these kiddos, as she calls them, and the families in the behavioral applications that she applies and her company applies. And I thought it was really, again, important for you guys to hear this type of story, because she is somebody that, and you'll hear me say it multiple times in the episode, she is somebody that truly has a job that she loves and doesn't do it just because of it's the job that she has. It's the job that she loves and will always do it. And she says she doesn't see herself doing anything else ever. So, you can draw a lot of inspiration from her. It's a great conversation, good story, and she's just a very genuine person. I think you'll enjoy it. Get me up on Instagram, DM me, send me a comment on my posts. It's where I'm most active. It's the best way for you guys to get in touch with me, especially for this podcast. Take a screenshot, share it on your stories. Let me know you're listening. I appreciate all the support, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Thanks. Welcome to Two Cents Worth. I'm your host, Ryan Faber. I have Miss Ashley Chastain here. Mrs. Ashley Chastain.
That's right.
Matt Chastain's wife. Matt was my first guest. We are bringing her in to give a different perspective. We're going to talk sports and fitness a little bit, but we're going to talk more around a lifelong passion. I don't know if it's lifelong, but it's a passion now. I don't know if we could say lifelong. Ashley is the owner of Complete ABA. And for those that don't know what ABA stands for, I would like for you to tell them.
That's where I come in.
Yes.
So ABA is, it stands for Applied Behavior Analysis. And so this is essentially the science of behavior. So what it looks at is, what do we want to see more of? And then how do we make sure that continues to occur? What do we want to see less of? And how do we remove things in the environment that are leading to the occurrence of that behavior? So
For who?
Right. So it's literally it's behavior. So it's, why do you get up and go to work in the morning to earn a paycheck? Because that's going to maintain that behavior. So what we do is ABA, or Applied Behavior Analysis, back in the 80s started to be used for treatment of children and adults, adolescents, anyone with autism. And what studies showed over years and years and years is that it was incredibly effective in remediating a lot of the deficits, those core deficits that kiddos with autism have. And so it's used with children, adolescents, adults, and it's just something that it's really kind of like the gold standard for autism-specific therapy, and with other different therapies, speech, OT, PT, all those different things. It's pretty cool.
Is it only for autism?
No, it's not. In my business specifically, we work primarily with individuals with autism, but
Okay.
it can be used. A lot of it is organizational behavioral management as well. So it's used in a lot of companies, which is very cool. I think in general, when you hear ABA, typically people think, oh, that's
why I asked that question.
That's treatment for people with autism. But it is not just for individuals with autism. And a lot of the studies don't even revolve around kids with autism, but there's obviously a portion that do, which is where our field comes from.
Okay, good. So for those of you that didn't know, now you know, or you have that misconception that you think ABA is only for autism, which is why I wanted to ask that question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is a misconception, and it's also one that people think, like you said, ABA is only for kids with autism, but really it's behavior analysis is nothing more than why do people and animals and everything act the way that they do? Why do behaviors continue to occur? So
Okay,
can
cool.
use it with
All
your
right,
children.
so we're going to get back to what I call your passion and not your job, and we'll get into that. But I want to first say or ask, I mentioned it, you're the wife of my best friend.
Yeah.
Also my podcast assistant, Matt.
Beer fetcher
My
extraordinaire.
beer fetcher.
Sitting to my right, not fetching me a beer.
You didn't want one. We asked you if you wanted a beer. You didn't want
I
one.
might change my mind in a minute.
Yeah, if you're nervous and you don't like the way your voice sounds, just remember,
Yeah.
I told a friend of mine that's going to come on this as well, your voice is how everybody else hears you.
I'm sorry.
So just remember that. Like the one person, Paul, was like, I'm going to sound so stupid. I'm like, don't worry, buddy. You've sounded stupid to us for
Yeah,
years.
for 25 years.
So don't worry about that.
Just kidding, Paul.
So outside of being Matt's wife, I want to know, and the people want to know, and outside of owning this company, which we're going to get to, who is Ashley Chastain?
Dun, dun, dun. Well, so I'm a little bit of a unicorn. I'm a native Charlottean. So I was born and raised here.
Which is rare. If you
Yes.
don't know Charlotte, nobody is really ever from Charlotte.
Except for me.
We all moved to Charlotte, okay?
Right.
Except for you.
Yeah. So I was born in Charlotte, went to Providence Day K-12, which, at the time was a super small private school here in Charlotte, a rival of Charlotte Christian, which obviously those of
I
you
know
that
you're
have
one of
been
the rare
listening-
people that come on that doesn't have Charlotte Christian ties.
Nope, I got PD ties.
Yeah.
So, right, I married
Yeah, but
Charlotte
you didn't go
Christian.
to Charlotte Christian.
No, I went to Providence Day. Played. So I swam. More or less. I mean, kind of my whole life. Not super competitively, but summer swim league, swam for school, and then basically in middle school, I think I tried out for like every team and didn't make any of them. And then one day, someone said, "Well, we're going to start a field hockey team," and I thought, "Oh, great, no tryouts. I think I'll do that." And so, a group of my friends and I, that I'm still great friends with today, started playing field hockey in 7th grade at PD when the sport initially started and played all the way through. So we were like the first group that started at the youngest age and that graduated. So we were part of that first team, which was really cool and a really unique experience. Didn't play in college. Went to,
Which is fine.
Yeah, which is fine. Well, and I mean, field hockey isn't super common here in the southern part of the U.S.
It's very popular in the Northeast. So my
Correct.
cousin played it at Holy Cross in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So she played field hockey up there. But yeah, it's very popular in the Northeast, not so much down here. So
No.
when you said that you played field hockey in high school, who'd you play against? Because I don't know any other schools that have field hockey.
Right. So now it's actually incredibly popular here in Charlotte. Now there's the Charlotte.
Because there's a lot of people moving down from the north bring it. Just like lacrosse. Lacrosse wasn't that popular years ago.
Right.
Here. Now it's huge.
Well, and what's really cool is that my coach that I played under at Providence Day, and then after college went back and I coached with her. She started the rec field hockey league here in Charlotte. The Charlotte,
Okay.
I think it's the Ambush. Assistant, can you look that up, please? Is it the Ambush?
Matt, look up what the name of the league.
I think
field
it's the
hockey
Charlotte
league is.
Ambush.
I want to say it's the Ambush, too. I
yeah.
think I've seen stickers for it.
Yeah, so she started that, which I think is really cool. So it's much more popular now. But at the time we played against, it was Providence Day, Charlotte Latin, and Country Day. They were the only teams in Charlotte that had field hockey. There was like Christ School, I think up in Asheville area. It is the Charlotte
the
Ambush.
Ambush.
Thanks,
Okay.
honey. So shout out to them. But yeah, there were literally like 8 teams in the entire state that we played against that had field hockey. Charlotte Christian still does not have field hockey,
No,
but
we
now
don't at Charlotte Christian, we do not believe in field hockey, apparently.
apparently not. But Covenant Day has a field hockey team. A lot of the public schools here in Charlotte have them now.
Yeah.
Myers Park. I think I don't know a few other ones that are quite good too. So yeah, but it's cool because in general here it's a sport that's primarily played by women, which is not the case worldwide. But
No, in the Olympics, there's men's field hockey.
Oh, yeah.
Which is
pretty awesome.
mind-boggling
Yeah.
because, again, like you said, in the U.S., it's a woman's sport.
Right.
It's not, there's men, I don't know if there's men, there's probably men's leagues, but I don't
Yeah.
never seen it.
So yeah, so that was cool. But yeah, in college, I mean, number one, I do not think by any means I was good enough to play in college, but it just would have changed. Like I was looking at just to go to school like Clemson or Virginia Tech or Elon.
Big schools.
Yeah, none of those had field hockey teams. So that wasn't in the cards for me. But went to Elon, met my husband,
Your now husband.
your best friend.
Yep.
And I guess, yeah, we started dating January. Thanks, honey. January of my freshman year. And so then I got to kind of live vicariously through his baseball career and all that fun stuff.
Been married 10 years.
We celebrated 10 years back in July. We were a year right behind you guys. And
Yep.
Live over in Matthews. Have 2 beautiful children and a golden retriever. And
That's it.
yep, that's it.
Owner of a business.
That's
Okay,
us,
so
yeah.
that's who Ashley is. Native Charlottean, field hockey, married, wife, mother to business owner. What do you do to get some sanity away from all of that? Because just knowing as myself this is why I do the podcast, right? It's like my way of having a creative outlet. What do you do to stay sane?
It's a good question. Maybe some people would argue that I don't do enough to stay sane, but
So maybe this is a time for self-reflection.
Maybe it is a little self-reflection. So, before kids, I mean, it was super easy to have time to do all sorts of other things. I did a few triathlons a while ago, and that was just something to challenge myself, because I do like being challenged. But then I had kids, and then it was really difficult to spend time on myself. And then my wonderful business partner and I decided to open up this new business. And so she is incredibly active. And so I attribute a lot of kind of my drive to seeing how centered she keeps herself with her focus. And so that's something that I've tried all this year, just made the commitment that I was going to get back to myself. And so I've been much more active, ran a few races. For the first time in a while, then I tripped and fell in a hole, sprained my ankle, and had to not run as much anymore. And
running's dangerous, people.
Yeah, it is. I mean, when you're walking to the greenway for your run is typically the most dangerous spot. So heads up there. But then I fell into Burn Boot Camp, which has been wonderful and something that I've been really involved in just recently, but is a really great outlet and something that I enjoy so much so that I get up like early, like you do some mornings.
How early?
5 a.m.
Yeah, I get up at 4.
I know, you beat me every time with everything, but I'm a close second.
All right. So you incorporate fitness, things to challenge you still. That's what keeps you going. You read, right?
Yeah, I do. Well, and I mean...
What kind of books are you into right now?
Oh, well, I mean, I unfortunately haven't read in quite some time, but over the summer I was doing pretty well. Those like Women in Cabin 10, like all of those
What's a book that's inspired you? I'll ask you that question.
Book that's inspired me, I read in college, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. It's about an individual with autism, and written from their point of view. So that was really the first thing that kind of clued me into it. Not that we can ever understand or be in that position, but when you read that book from that point of view and you think like, this is what, this particular individual, how they think and how their mind processes. It was actually turned into a play, which I saw recently. And I think the play turned a lot of people off because of how loud and the lights and everything. And the whole time I was like, this is amazing. Because it just really, I think, inspired me, kind of like what your original question was, and how individuals on the spectrum may think and process information. So that book was one that I read a while ago. And it's pretty awesome if anyone wants to read it.
So again, I think for me, and we're going to get into it, but where we draw inspirations, I talked about it in my weekend review on the 30th of November, is, for me, it was like Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain was very inspiring to me. So things outside of your everyday can inspire you. A book you read, a person, whatnot. So for you, again, it goes back. Mine was, for him, it was cooking. Like that inspired me to want to cook more and stuff like that. But for you, it goes back to what you do for a living,
right?
And that's where you draw inspiration from. So that's cool. We touched on it quickly, how you were you're married. You're married. You're a mother of 2, dog, business owner. So outside of just the obvious of being married and all of those things, for those of you that are listening that are that are married in a long-term relationship, have kids, that type of stuff, I think it's, especially on this one, we're going to talk about a lot about stuff in life. How has marriage changed who Ashley was 10 years ago?
A lot, I think. I think it's hard to deny when you've been married for, I think a chunk of time and had children and seen, and I think it's unique for Matt and I specifically because we dated in college where we were just the young, crazy college kids. And then we transitioned to this. Now we're engaged and we're newly married, but we were so young that it was like we were still just these young college kids. I think it's pretty undeniable to say that you don't change. I mean, I think who I was, in college and years ago is obviously you learn to reflect a lot more. And maybe that's something I wasn't good at previously, but I think, because you do, like, you have a lot of people, I don't want to use the word that you have to please, but you're spread in a lot of different directions. And so you learn to figure out, well, how do I devote time to all these different areas in a way that I'm serving everyone and myself well? So I think that's something that I've probably learned or been able to
do. You have different motivators?
Yeah.
Like what drives you now that didn't drive you before you were married?
That's a really good question. I think you want to do, as my husband's waving up.
No, he wants a flag.
Yeah, he wants a flag
for the football
thrown.
game we're watching.
What drives me? I mean, I think you want.
At first,
to do,
I thought he was waving a fart away, and I was like, "What are you doing, dude? Damn, man!"
I'm trying to actually answer this question. I don't know what drives me now. I mean, I think what used to drive me were probably very self-centered things, because before you're married, like it's just yourself you have to worry about. And even though you want to serve different causes, and I was involved with, I was an education major, so I taught from, the get-go. I loved working with underprivileged populations, but again, that's all very self-serving because you're doing those things solely to make yourself
feel better.
Feel better. Yeah. At least maybe that's what it was for me. Maybe I can't speak for everyone, but so I think now
you don't need to speak for everyone. I want you to speak for you.
Yeah. So I think that's probably what it was. And obviously I liked the work that I was doing and I liked thinking, I liked helping others, but I think at the time it was self-serving. And then you have kids and you get married and it is totally not about just you anymore. So I think that's what drives me because I want to make sure that I'm giving what I need to all the different parts of my life and doing it well. And then reflecting on, that balance, which balance is a tricky thing.
So that and balance is a tricky thing, especially when you have kids because their schedule is not what you need for your schedule. And so you have to balance that out very well, which is a tough thing. We're going to get into your job and your passion and how you got into it and what led you to it. But it's talking about marriage and who you are and growing up. I'm going to ask you another tough question, and I think it's a good one. I want to know, what's the one thing your mom or dad taught you that has completely changed your life?
Yeah, so my parents and I are very close. They still live in Charlotte. My mom cares for our children when they're not in school. So to say that our families are close is an understatement, but we also say that we put the fun back in dysfunctional because our family's just a little nuts. My parents, I think there's two things. I think specifically for my mom, definitely taught me that you have to work hard at everything you do and that others may not always notice that, and that is okay. You don't work hard so that others can notice. You work hard at things because that's either the right thing to do or it's what's best for the other person, so what's best for yourself. But it's not always about, the bottom dollar that you earn on a paycheck. It's how you make others feel, which directly ties into what my dad taught me. And he's the king of like these random quotes. And a lot of them are funny. But then he always tells me and my brother that it's not about what you do, it's how you make others feel. And so I think that's something that probably does transcend into my work and whatnot. But I do think that how you make others feel, I do think that matters. And you know this, you've known me for forever, that I think the way that we act, I don't think we need to tiptoe or walk on eggshells, but I do think that our actions and our words matter. And I think they should matter in a way that leave a lasting impact or that leave, a footprint for someone else to follow.
So I think that's great. Like, especially in what your mom taught you. So I tell my team all the time that works for me, hard work doesn't go unnoticed.
Right.
Work hard. I had Steve on here on the last podcast, and he talked about, why he wanted to work and do this. And he was working from 7 to 10 and
Right.
what drives him. And it was, you know, he might not, in his eyes, he wasn't great at what he was doing, but he was working hard, and hard work does not go unnoticed.
Right. It may take people longer.
It might take people longer,
yeah.
right? But
Right.
To notice it, but it does not go unnoticed. You don't
Right.
always have to be out there talking about how hard you work,
Exactly.
because it's those people that
Yes.
are still driving themselves from a very selfish perspective of,
Right.
you know. But so that's a great
Yep.
life lesson, and obviously you implement that into your life, because you just talked about also it doesn't matter what the paycheck looks like and whatnot.
Right.
I would say for you are basically the one person I know that would do their job if it paid them nothing.
I might.
Where the rest of us, we have jobs that we like, tolerate,
Right.
whatever it might be, but you are the one person that I could literally say, we're going to shut the money off, and you would still want to do it somehow.
Yeah, I
Right.
would. Yep.
So let's get into that, because I think it's important, and it's going to be a big part of what we're going to talk about today. Like I said, mentioned it earlier, you live the saying of find a job that you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yep.
That is Ashley Chastain, I think, to a T. So why is that? Why are you so passionate about what you do? Like, you mentioned the book that inspired you that you read,
Yeah.
but like, what led you down the path of wanting to do this? You were a school teacher.
Yep.
But you also did all this additional education, got your master's, your doctorate, all this
Not
stuff.
doctorate.
No doctorate?
No, my master's. I have
Master's.
2 different masters, but no,
Okay,
I
I'm
will
sorry.
not claim the PhD.
All right, so 2 different masters,
Yep.
but still. So why ABA? Why autism? Why not something else? Why not just be a regular teacher?
Right. Well, and let me first start off by saying that my undergrad was in special and elementary education. So I had 2 parts to that. When I went into teaching, I taught in the general education classroom, meaning that I taught 1st grade for a year, I taught 4th grade for 2 years, you know, in a neurotypical class, just a 4th grade, 1st grade class. I left teaching, again, probably for some selfish reasons, that I felt like in the position that I was in, I couldn't really teach. I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And so when I left teachers have my utmost respect. I mean, I cannot say enough how valuable teachers are. And I think that, there's times where I think, man, like maybe I should have hung in there, just because I think the world is always going to need, you know, teachers and teachers that love what they do. And I did love teaching. But I wanted to get, at the time that I left teaching, I wanted to get more into the field of special education. I wanted to actually be the resource teacher or the exceptional children's teacher for our school. And that's when the school system I worked in put a hiring freezes. It was the peak of or right when the recession started.
Yeah.
So I couldn't move. And I just said, forget it. I'm going to look at something else. And I just saw a post from a friend that I went to high school with and actually went to college with her. And she said, hey, my company's hiring if you want to do early intervention for, you know, kiddos on the autism spectrum. And I thought, oh, sounds like fun. Like, I don't really know much about this. I don't know what it is, but all right. And the job was going to lead me to travel to Fayetteville every
Weekly.
day. Every day. Yeah. So,
And for those of you that don't know, Fayetteville is a 2.5-hour drive from here.
yep, on a good day. Yep.
On a good day, and it's a smaller city, and it has
It's on an army base, which is
it's on an army base,
very
which
cool
is
population.
Fort Bragg.
Yep.
Yeah. All
Yep.
right.
And
So
then
go ahead.
and then Pope Air Force Base is back there also.
Yep.
So I was always one of those that I thought the world of autism intrigued me. I was by no means an expert. I had worked with kids in my class when I taught that had autism, but that was a world that I really knew very little about. But I thought it was interesting, and I always thought it was really cool. There was a girl that I went to college with. We were in all of our special ed classes, our special education classes together, and her brother was on the spectrum. And I just always thought the way that she spoke of him and everything was really cool. And she was such an expert in that field. And I thought, man, like I wish I was an expert, you know, at something. And so really just kind of took a leap of faith. I was already in my master's program for a master's of education, and then took, you know, this leap and started driving down 74 to Fayetteville several times a week. I would essentially go up and back on a Monday. I'd go like up on a Tuesday, stay overnight, come back on a Wednesday. I'd have Thursday off, and then I'd go up and back on a Friday or something like that.
And at this time, you don't have the kid yet?
No.
Kids,
Yeah,
right?
nope, no kids, which I think was the only.
So I think that helps.
Only saving grace.
Yeah.
Yes. And I had a wonderfully supportive husband who wanted me to follow my dreams. And I remember the first day on that job just thinking like, this is it. Like I've just found that, I don't know, this is just me. And I mean, I guess I've just always been a person that if something doesn't, I mean, this is basic behavior, which is what I do now, but if it doesn't motivate you, you're not going to continue to do it. If it's, so this is just something that motivated me. I put on blinders and I just said, this is what I'm going to do until, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it well until I figure out kind of another plan. And so went back to then get my master's or my graduate certificate in behavior analysis, which was the coursework that you have to sit for the national certifying exam to become a board certified behavior analyst. So that's what I did. And then the company that I was with at the time was great and allowed us to kind of open up a satellite office here in Charlotte. And so we brought.
Were they based out of Fayetteville?
Based out of Raleigh. But
Raleigh,
at the time, and this gets into a little bit more about autism kind of insurance coverage and that, but at the time, TRICARE was the only major insurance funder that funded applied behavior analysis for children with autism, or for individuals with autism.
And this is
2010-ish.
Okay.
So like not long ago.
Yeah.
Now, most major insurance companies and with most major employers
have something.
Yes, have it. There are now medical.
Why do you think that is? Is it because it's becoming more and more?
Oh yeah, I mean, and statistics were just released the other day that have increased the prevalence from 1 in 59 to 1 in 40.
Yeah.
So 1 in
so
40
it's
kids.
Continuously getting more popular, not popular,
right.
but more.
The prevalence is increasing for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it. I think the other part is that science has led us to figure out that, hey, this actually works. Like this is a therapy. This is a treatment that actually treats the core deficits of autism. It treats the social deficits, the communication deficits, the behavioral deficits, and it works. And so it's funded incredibly frequently now, but it's a long time coming for these families. And I think that, we operate with the mentality like we would want someone to do it for our family, so we're gonna do it for others. But yeah, so worked in Charlotte for quite some time, passed my national certifying exam, became a BCBA, which, like I said, is a board certified behavior analyst. Those individuals, are some of the professionals that do applied behavior analysis or ABA therapy. And yeah.
So you mentioned earlier a dream, like a dream job or a career. What was the first career you ever dreamed of having?
I think I kind of always wanted to be a teacher. Like,
okay.
I don't remember as a kid being like, I'm going to be an astronaut or, I mean, I think I always liked teaching. I was involved, just in church, kind of doing like the nursery and church, youth groups and tutoring, all that kind of stuff. So I was just always involved with kids. So yeah, I think I'm kind of that.
Okay.
Yeah. I always wanted to be a teacher.
And you're doing that, but in a different, stadium per se.
Yep.
So you got to open a satellite office here in Charlotte.
Yep.
You didn't have to travel as much.
Right.
Insurance companies picked up more of what you guys were doing, so you don't have to. So, all right. So I want to ask, so TRICARE was the only one. So why Fayetteville? Was
Fort
it
Bragg.
Because of
the
military?
Right.
Okay.
Here in Charlotte, we have a wonderful National Guard base, but obviously it's incredibly small compared to the
Fort
huge,
Bragg, the city of Fort Bragg.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then you worked here in Charlotte for a while, and then just kind of felt a pull to do something a little bit different, and just kind of stumbled. A coworker and I it happened to cross paths with this one day when we were both kind of at a crossroads, and I was pregnant with my daughter. So this was 3.5 years ago at this point. Was pregnant with my daughter and just thought, well, there's never a good time to say, hey, I'm going to leave a great job and take a total leap of faith. But, there's never a good time to do it. But I just felt like, that was a good enough time for for us. So,
Do you like being your own boss?
I do, but I mean, I have to. I mean, my Tracy is my business partner, my work wife, my confidant, and we're 50-50 in everything. So we are our own bosses and each other's bosses, and it's yeah. I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's a privilege, and I'm happy to have it.
So starting your own company, and I want to get into that a little bit later, just taking that leap of faith. But you have an established company in this field. What doors has that opened up from? And I'm asking truly out of the fact that I don't know your world. Like,
right?
Are you invited to different organizations or conferences, or do you have this network now because you own your own company rather than just being one of an employee of a company that has it? So you as a business owner in that field, what does that look like outside of the day-to-day? I want to know, like, what are the outside things that come, and there might not be any, but I just want to know.
Yeah, no, there are. I mean, I think, the autism community here in Charlotte is a very tight-knit one, and which is a wonderful thing for the families that are affected by autism. But I think because of that, when you do this, there aren't many of us at all, and so
how many companies in North Carolina?
Oh, in
North
Carolina, I mean, I'd have to say 25 plus. I mean, at least 30.
That's still not a lot.
Yeah, no, not a lot at all, considering that 1 in 40 kids is diagnosed with autism.
State.
And so there's not a lot of us. And so I think that, you're just kind of known in general, like when you're a BCBA in Charlotte, it's just kind of one of those things. You all kind of know each other somehow.
Yeah.
But we are invited to different places to speak on different things. I mean, nothing major, which is kind of what we wanted. Like, we just wanted to serve the families that, we work with and serve them well and get involved as we can with different organizations, but, at a rate that keeps our heads screwed on straight.
Yeah, no, I'm just interested in it because I do see, and I know you obviously on a very personal level, but I do see you involved in fundraisers and things like that. So I didn't know what kind of doors get opened up when you own a business in that field, or you're just a part of that field.
Well, and it's a little bit of this paradigm of like, you're serving this community that is so that needs to be served, but what you're serving is like something that can be incredibly devastating, so it's a little like, people will ask us a lot like, well, how do you market? And it's like, we don't really, like, because it feels, I mean, it just feels a little weird sometimes being like, let me help you with your really hard situation. And so, it's.
But that brings up a good question. You are a business owner. You have people that work for you.
Yep.
You have to provide because you're basically helping them put food on their table.
Absolutely.
How do you get business in this field?
A lot of it for us in our particular company is word of mouth. So we're incredibly fortunate that, we feel like we've worked hard, and the families that we work with are, bar none, they are the most wonderful, gracious group. And we serve about 20 families right now. We take families on as we can. Mm-hmm. We don't say, okay, we'll take on 4 and happen to hire someone. Like, if we have availability, then we bring someone on. So it's been very slow and steady, which is exactly what both of us wanted. When we first opened, we try to build good relationships with different pediatricians, developmental peds, behavioral peds, neurology, just kind of the different experts in this field as well. Mm-hmm. And have kind of gone from there. But, because we're obviously not affiliated with, a hospital system, or anything like that, we're an independent practice, as all, are. It's a lot of it's word of mouth, and,
How many people work for you?
So there's Tracy and I that are the owners, and then we have 5 others that work for us.
So you're a 7-person outfit.
Yep.
How can people get in touch with you that are listening? I'll ask this. Do you service outside of Charlotte?
We do. We serve as far north, as Denver. It does have to be in North Carolina. So
Denver, North Carolina.
Denver, North Carolina.
Not Denver, Colorado.
Although sometimes people are like, "Oh, you went to Colorado?"
You have to remember, Ashley, I'm international.
You are so international. Yes, you are international. Hello, New Zealand.
When you hear Denver, people are going to be like, "Oh, Colorado?" No, Denver, North Carolina.
Denver, North Carolina.
Okay, all right. So all the way up to Denver. So you try and stay within a 30-mile radius of Charlotte.
I mean, within kind of that 485 loop, and if we have families in Denver, then we'll serve, several in that area, so it's because we are home based. We don't have a clinic. So everything we do is, in home, in school,
house.
community.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Do you have to get a different certification to go into like South Carolina because of how close we are to the border?
Well, it's funny. How much time do you have for me to explain this? No, I'm just kidding. But
we're only 30 minutes in, so you got another 30 minutes to talk.
Not a different certification. Same certification, but in North Carolina, the practice of behavior analysis falls under the practice of psychology. So we consult with licensed psychologists in the state of North Carolina. So because we fall under their state license, we cannot and choose not to practice in South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just to maintain that legality. There are things that are in the works that are kind of changing with that, which is a good thing. So I think it would open up services.
I was going to say, does that make it tough? Because if you know where Charlotte is, so my house, I am in Charlotte, and I literally am a mile from the border of South Carolina.
Right.
And Charlotte growing, you have so much of the population moving into South Carolina because it's cheaper to live in. And you still have the same amount of commute to get into where we live, where you live in Matthews, to downtown. I mean, it's basically the same type of commute that you would have if you lived in our neighborhoods to those areas. So is it so you say things are in the works to try and help alleviate some of that?
Yeah. And there's always, there's a lot of backstory to it, a lot of legalities.
Could you open a satellite office in like Rock Hill or Fort Mill, South Carolina, and still be complete ABA, or would you have to be a different type of company?
No, I don't know. I think the short answer is the short and safe answer for me is no.
Okay. I'm just saying, I don't know. This is a whole new world to me.
It is a great question. It's a great question. It's a question that we get asked a lot. And I mean, nothing is harder than when a family calls and either we can't serve them because they're in South Carolina, or we don't accept their kind of insurance, and everyone that does has wait list. I mean, that is, it's tough to tell a family, that you can't help them at this time.
Basically they're,
or that our wait listers, whatever the reason is. It stinks to say, oh, well, because you live a half mile.
Do you want to stay the size you are, or do you want to try and grow as much as you possibly can because of the fact that you want to help? Or are you content with being able to help the certain amount of people that you help today?
Right. So part of our business model and our mentality is to not grow, which is polar opposite of most
most
people,
everybody else in the world.
Well, and it's just we wanted to serve families personally, serve them well, and keep really close relationships with our families and staff, and that's not to say that in bigger companies you can't do that. I think Tracy and I just felt like we're just not good at that. We're just we feel like what we excel in is a smaller practice, which isn't for everyone.
Because you as owners still go house to house.
Oh, yeah.
So you're still providing the...
Yes, and we always will.
The therapy.
Yep.
Whereas there might be owners out there that say, you as the workers do it, I'll run the business.
Right, which is totally
fine. Which is fine,
yeah,
right. But you and Tracy are still actually in the homes doing the therapy yourself. So they're getting still... Ashley and Tracy as the owners, as well as the 5 additional.
Absolutely.
What would you call them?
Employees.
What would they be called?
Employees. So we have another
therapists.
Therapists.
There you go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to know. What would you call somebody in the field? It's a therapist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Essentially. There's another BCBA that works with us, and then there's we have 4 registered behavior technicians.
So in this world that you want to stay in, which is what you talked about, your business model, when you get a phone call and it's potential, do you can touch the pop filter. You're fine. Move the microphone. I've been moving it the whole time. Do you recommend other companies that they might be able to go to?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean,
we don't leave them high and dry.
No, we just want kids to get services. I mean, it's not about it's not a competition. It's about serving these families that need it, and taking the time to talk to people that call you and say, hey, we just left this doctor's office. My child just received this diagnosis. What do I do? And it's about being able to give them maybe an ounce of a peace of mind when they have, when they're faced with really difficult circumstances. Is it
outside of what you already talked about, where somebody calls and their insurance doesn't cover it, or they're outside of the area that you would service, or, certain circumstances, what's the most discouraging thing in your field?
That's a great question. So,
I'm filled with great questions, Ashley.
Yeah, you're filled with great questions.
I crush great questions all day long.
Yeah. 2 cents worth podcast, folks. I think the most discouraging thing and again, this gets into like pretty field specific stuff, is in our field, it can be very easy to get into it with limited training. And so I think one of the most discouraging things is when we get calls from families that say, you know, we've done this, but it, you know, kind of quote unquote didn't work, or there was a lot of turnover, or there was this, or there was that, you know, and that's the case anywhere. That's the case with anyone that's serving a vulnerable population. So I think it can get discouraging to feel like, you know, there are families that aren't being served well. But I think we try to turn that around into, we can't serve everyone. We're never going to be able to help everyone, but what can we do to serve these families incredibly well? And so that's just something that, you know, it can be discouraging, but, you know, you can spend all day in your job, no matter what you're doing, nitpicking on the negatives. And we try to just turn that around and focus on the positives, which is actually a big part of what, you know, we literally do every day with our kiddos, is working on behaviors that we're going to increase, you know, whether it's working on functional communication training, where we're trying to teach, you know, our clients to use a more functional way to communicate instead of engaging in a problem behavior. But we also try to turn that around to our business model and, you know, what can we do to keep ourselves moving so that we continue to engage in, you know, ethical, moral, and, you know, positive behaviors.
Can it be discouraging to go into a house to work with a kid that you work with? You might not be having a good day, but you know you have to kind of be on for that kid.
Oh yeah.
Like, are those the worst days when you let whatever's happening to you personally creep in, or you might just be having a bad day, or you dealt with a tough parent and then you go into this next house? Like, I would think, knowing just having to go and like service one kid at a time and be in a different house, like having a bad day is probably got to be a super tough thing to do.
Yeah. And I think, it's hard to have a tough day. It's hard to have a tough morning, like with my kids at home. You know, I mean, I have 2 kids of my own. They're 5 and 3. They're not perfect. I mean, I like to think they are, but you know, we still have very tough mornings. It's hard to have that going on, to have any personal, you know, issues or just anything. And then having to go into these houses and just say, okay, this is like literally what I do the next 2 hours directly impacts this child's future. I mean, it's a lot of weight to carry. And
that's why I asked that, because
it is.
I think that would emotionally be draining.
It is draining. And I think for that reason, there is a lot of turnover in our field. Just like there's turnover in any field that works with kiddos or adolescents or adults or anything with special needs. It is a high turnover field. And so we try our best to support each other, to support our staff. You know, I think when you ask kind of what's changed, even like with me, you know, prior to marriage, post marriage, I mean, that self-care and taking care of yourself first, especially in this field, is very important. And we try to do that. I mean, Lord knows we're not perfect, but we try to do that with our staff. The 5 girls that work with us are bar none, and there is no way we could do this without them. And you know, we try to take care of them because they're spending a lot of their energy taking care of our kiddos.
So you just said it. So there's 7 people that work for you. They're all female. You're in the industry. Mm-hmm. What is, because this is, I'm going to guess that this is a very heavily dominated female industry.
Yep, it is.
90-10? 80-20?
You know, it's hard to say because
I feel like this is a completely different thing than what you would see in most industries.
Absolutely.
It's a female-dominated industry, which is fine. It's just interesting because you're a female-owned company.
Yep.
You have your whole staff is female.
Yes.
Rough guess, 80-20?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I personally have not worked with that many males in this field. That's not to say that they aren't there.
Sure.
I mean, but
North Carolina's a big state, though, and if they're not here, I can't imagine they're going to be, you know, prevalent anywhere else.
Right. And Matt and I were kind of talking, like, there's no real, like, reason for that other than that, you know, it seems that women are more drawn towards fields of working with children for whatever reason. I mean, it is what it is.
It's a motherly instinct.
Right,
exactly. It's just this instinct of, in general. So I just find that interesting because most fields are going to be male dominated or a 60-40 or a 55-45. That's just in general how it is.
Yeah.
So in this field, it is mostly female, which is, there's absolutely no issue with that. So you're a woman-owned company. In this field, it might not pertain so much because it is very popular, but being a woman-owned company, what is that like to have this, and this is me from the outside, a basic title, I'm doing air quotes, of you're a minority-owned company.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Are there benefits to that in your field? Because I know a lot of times, so my previous life before of what I did now, I was in construction. And when you were in construction and you were a minority-owned company, you got more insight to a lot of government jobs because they want the minority-owned companies to have the opportunity to get the work, whereas you know the white male-dominated companies dominate industries. Right. So is it? I don't think so in this industry. Yeah. But what is it? Is there any differences for you being a female-owned company, minority-owned company?
Not that we've run across. Now there, I think there's always that drive being a female business owner, being a mom, raising a daughter that, you know, feels pretty good to be a woman business owner. But I don't think there's any like benefit necessarily.
There's no outline benefit. There's
industry wise, I don't think there's
you don't
a benefit.
You don't get more clients because you're a woman owned.
No, I don't think so. Probably not. Although, I mean, it's interesting that you say that because, in my experience in this field, you know, we do get the question from families a lot, like, well, do you hire males? And it's like, well, yeah, like we hire whoever was good. I mean,
the correct answer is yes, we'll hire anybody
anyone that walks through the doors that is qualifications
for the job.
But at the end of the day, like, we just don't get a lot of male applicants. I mean, I can't really even think of
that's okay.
many, you know,
the
so
team that I manage for my day job is, I think, 70% female, and people ask me, anytime I have a job opening, usually the top 3 candidates I get are always female. And I'm like, you can send me male candidates, but I will hire the best person for the job.
Exactly.
But like, kind of same thing.
Yeah.
All right. I had a question. All right. You own the company. You've worked for somebody.
Right.
Would you ever go back to working for somebody, or is the future for Ashley to always own a company?
I mean, Tracy, if you're listening, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, I don't, we have,
if Tracy's listening, that's great. We need more people to listen.
Yeah. So. Got it. But no, I mean, I mean, there's no end in sight, you know, I don't think that, you know, either one of us ever could, I'll speak for myself. I couldn't imagine working for somebody else, but that doesn't, but again, Tracy and I work for each other, you know what I mean? So it's like, we're in this together. But
do
in
companies
terms of
get bought up in this industry?
All the time. We get phone calls probably once a month with an offer, which is just something we're not interested in. But
today,
yeah, ever,
ever. Good.
Ever.
See,
never.
So again, I talk about the passion of it, right? Like, more people would say, yeah, with the right offer, we'd think about it. You say never.
No, absolutely not.
You say never. Your husband just held up 10 fingers for 10 more years.
Right. No. $10 million.
$10 million.
$10 million, right.
If some company's calling you to buy your company for $10 million, take it, sit out for a couple years, go get your license in South Carolina.
Buying us all a vacation home is what I'm doing to the island.
Okay. Oh, $10 million. All right. I thought you meant like in 10 more years she's selling and she's retiring.
That's also completely ridiculous.
Are you retiring in this perfect world? You retire doing this?
Yeah, I think so. Perfect world. One of my lovely children, and maybe one of Tracy's children one day want to do this, but no, I'm just kidding. If that were the case, my dad's still holding on to hope that maybe one of us will be a lawyer one day, I think. But no,
I think that one's, well, for the kids it hasn't.
We got Max, you never know.
I was gonna say, so, but you come from a family that are business owners. Your dad owns his own law firm.
He does.
Yep. So
yeah, a lot of my family members own their own businesses, so it's cool. Yeah, I've definitely kind of been brought up with that, kind of philosophy, I guess. But no, I mean, I don't think that it's a question of would I ever work for someone else. Like, I don't see it like that. I just see it as, would I work for somebody that had the same mindset that I do? You know, that has the same philosophy, that has the same business mentality. So, but at this point, I mean, I don't think that either one of us could ever imagine.
All right. How long have you owned this company?
Almost 3 years.
How do people get in touch with you?
You can go to our website,
Which is what?
Which is completeaba.com.
Okay.
And yeah, we're always happy to answer questions. I mean, if there is a parent out there listening with a kiddo,
And you'll answer questions from people out of state.
absolutely. Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah, we'll just
service them,
refer. Yeah,
obviously. You
we'll
refer them
find
to
you
somebody near.
referrals. Yep.
Good.
The most important thing is that, you know,
So in 3 years, what's the biggest lesson you've learned of owning a company?
oh, biggest lessons. I think.
How to run a business?
Oh well, yeah. I mean, I think, but
That's the number one lesson?
yeah, number one lesson is maybe we know what we're doing now. No, I'm just kidding. But we, I think the biggest lessons are that your self-care is most important. You have to keep your head screwed on straight. That you have to stick to your business model. And it is easy in this field to want to grow and want to grow quickly, but that's just not what's always best. At least for
especially
for us.
like what you said with the stats becoming
Yeah.
1 in 59 and now
1 in
40 kids is. Do you get diagnosed with autism?
Yes.
What is you get diagnosed with autism?
Yep.
Who gives you a diagnosis for autism?
A medical
we're gonna come back
provider.
to a medical
yeah,
provider,
so
okay.
a licensed psychologist, a neurologist, pediatrician, or developmental peds, behavioral peds, but typically a licensed psychologist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So back to lessons learned
Yeah, I think
of owning your own company.
lessons of owning our own company is, I mean, this is kind of my saying for a lot of things is this too shall pass. So, there's going to be moments where you want to pull your hair out, but it'll pass and you'll move on and you'll learn something from it. Next lesson I think that I've learned is you take a deep breath before you respond to something. And that's, I think in general, you have to.
What a great,
Probably something I've also learned since I was, quite young, which you can probably attest to as well.
a great lesson for anybody out there in the business world. You
Yep.
get an email
Yep.
that might fire you up
Yep.
or you want to respond to, digest it for a second.
Always.
Don't respond
Don't
in the heat of the
respond.
moment
Never.
because it backfires a lot.
Always.
And emails take tones that you might not have, but the way you
Absolutely.
typed it
Yeah.
and wrote it out, it took a certain tone.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, in general,
Yeah. In general,
regardless of
that's
owning
just
your
a
own
good
business or
piece of
not, that's a
advice.
great
Yeah,
piece of
that's
advice.
just a good piece.
Think about what you're saying before you actually say
And Tracy and I call each other all the time and just say, hey, I got this email or this happened, let's figure this out before we respond. I mean, it's something that's definitely taken me personally, a long time to kind of hone that skill. But I think it's one that you're always going to say things better if you have maybe just an extra second to think about it before you hit that send button.
You're right.
But yeah, and then I think another lesson or a piece of advice, maybe, I don't know, or just something that I'm incredibly grateful for is truly having an incredibly supportive husband. That's something that you over there, that's just bar none. I mean, there's no way
My assistant.
yeah, your assistant, he wears many hats. But he's been paramount in this adventure. And then also having a wonderful business partner. I mean, there's no way that I could have done this or wanted to do it on my own. So having Tracy, I mean, we're just each other's other part of our brain. I mean, it's just I'm incredibly grateful for that. So I think for me, that's been important things.
Anything, because we're going to get off this topic, anything that you want to talk about still that we didn't touch on about your company or what you do?
I mean, we touched on a lot, and probably a lot more than I realized we would. Hi,
Yeah.
Carson. But I think something that's important is it's really never too late to really figure out what you want to do, or if you want to do something that drives you to be to be better, and that it's okay if that's not your career choice. It is okay if what you do for a job every day is just a job. That's fine. It's okay if what someone else does for a job every day is their passion. Both are incredibly important in this society. Not everyone's going to be passionate about what they do, but that if you are, there's a lot of steps that can be, tumultuous to kind of get through before you figure it out, but that it's worth it for sure.
So it's a rewarding job for you?
Yes, Absolutely.
life for you?
Yes.
Yeah. Good.
Couldn't do anything else.
Couldn't do anything else. Good for you.
think so.
You're one of the few, I tell you that.
You know what's funny? Those people say to me all the time, like, I could never do what you do. And it's like, yeah, but I couldn't do what you do,
Yeah.
you know? Like, I couldn't sit behind a desk. Like, that's just not me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be good at it. You know, I don't think I was exceptionally good at working for, you know, a larger company. Like, I think I'm better at this. And so, you know, what other people say, like, oh, like, you know, and like we're no heroes because we happen to work with, you know, a special needs population. It's just what we like, and it works for us. So,
all right. So
Here's that.
outside of work, we're gonna finish up here with I'm gonna do some quick questions, and then we're gonna wrap it up with some just personal stuff for you, Ashley. I told you to come in being vulnerable,
I'm
so
ready.
I got some tough questions for you.
all right.
Not kid related, not work related. Favorite hobby?
Probably traveling.
Traveling.
Yep.
What are you most grateful for today?
Balance in my life.
What are you most afraid of?
Being spread too thin. So it kind of counteracts what I'm most grateful for. But yeah, having not being able to keep my head screwed on straight.
Okay. What's the one thing that people misunderstand about you?
That's a good question. Probably my directness at times. I think that I say what I think relatively often, which I think is okay. And I think that, but I do think it's about how you make people feel. So perhaps that's something that's misunderstood about me.
What's something you say you're going to do that you know you'll never do?
Skydiving. I practiced that answer last night, actually. I would love to skydive, but I'm never jumping out of a plane. It looks awesome.
I would never do
I'm
it.
never
People are
doing
like,
it.
oh, it's incredible. No, I'm all
I'm
right.
gonna- Listen,
I'm
I
fine.
saw a video of my dad doing it, and he looked like he was about to pass out or pee himself or something. So I don't really want
Your dad did it?
Oh, yeah. And the video is hilarious.
This guy that works for me in Jacksonville did it, and he's like, it's the greatest thing ever. I'm like, don't, no thank you.
Listen, did you see the video of the hand glider and the
in
instructor?
Florida.
Instructor forgot to strap her in. Like, no thanks.
The guy
I'm
was
good.
like, it was in Florida last week, and the guy who's hanging on is like, I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
And they literally just like jumped off
2
the
minutes
cliff.
and 40 seconds.
Yeah.
And he was hanging the whole time. I'm like, I'm
That's
good.
some good upper body strength.
Yeah.
He goes to the gym. I'd need to get that guy on here
Right,
to talk about his
right.
fitness.
How'd you hold on for 2 hours or 2 minutes
That's
and 40
incredible.
seconds?
All right, so you mentioned travel as your favorite hobby.
Yep.
I'm going to wrap it up with some of these questions. I want to know what is the best restaurant, not your favorite, the best restaurant you've ever eaten at?
So this takes it to a little bit of a different direction, but best restaurant is a restaurant that no longer exists,
That's
but
fine.
it's Busby's in St. Martin. So we are blessed enough to go to the island of St. Martin very frequently. My dad and some others have a house down there, so I've kind of grown up, you know, getting to go to this great place since college. And
Is that what the place?
No, that's not the place.
I was gonna say
Yeah.
I've been to St. Martin with them. I got super drunk and we had to go home because I was
at
yelling
like
incoherently at like
6
6 o'clock in the
p.m.
afternoon. I drank a whole bottle of rum
Yep.
right when we got off the plane. I was so annihilated, and I was yelling
yeah.
because half the island's Dutch and the other half is French.
French.
I'm yelling, "Hamburger, give me a hamburger!"
Which, in case y'all cannot pick up, is supposed to be his French accent.
Yeah, that's my French accent. To which then Mark, her dad, was like, "So we need
Check,
to go
please.
home."
Check, please. Yeah.
And
He
I
just
woke
did
up at
his
5
check.
o'clock in the morning and didn't remember what happened.
No, he felt great too.
Yeah, it felt great. I was the first one up. I was like, "This is great. What happened?" And it's like, "We missed dinner because of you, you asshole."
That's one of the finer moments. But St. Martin is very near and dear to our hearts, and obviously was hit by Hurricane Irma in 2017, September of 17. So our favorite place that, you know, I've been to pregnant with both my kids, or maybe not with Hallie, but with Cole, have so many memories there, was completely wiped away. And so it's some of the best food that I've ever had, but just the memories and the treasures that we've gotten from Busby's and all the people who work there. It's just.
Are the owners
super
going to
special.
open a different restaurant?
No, it's for sale.
It's
So
done?
yep. So
Picture
the
was up in the bar.
say what?
Your picture was up in the
Oh yeah, my picture was up in the bar. Like
Oh,
it,
so
yeah, it
you're
was famous.
You're famous. in St. Martin.
100%.
You're
yeah.
famous in the Charlotte airport as well.
Oh yeah. Fun fact.
And Steve's still
Yeah.
here from when we recorded
Did you know
earlier.
that? Yeah.
No, I did
If you travel in the Charlotte airport, people, there are posters all around. So my wife used to work for Visit Charlotte,
Yep.
and they had a photo shoot, and Lindsay had to round up some people to do this photo shoot, and Ashley and another one of our friends, Addie, and some other people went to this photo shoot. And so if you go to the airport, there is pictures of Ashley all over the airport. So every time I travel, I usually text her. I'm like, you cannot come with me. Stop following me to this airport. And she's there. And it's all around, things to do in Charlotte when you land. There's pictures of them at the epicenter.
My smiling face.
She's there. So, so you're famous in St. Martin. Well, you were famous in St. Martin.
I know. I don't know what happened to the picture, but
so they're not going to open. It's for sale. Okay.
No, the owner owned a bunch of property down there, and it's all for sale. But I mean, we've been in touch with our friends that work there.
Mm-hmm.
They're either working construction other places to help rebuild. They have jobs other places if you went to different neighboring islands for a while. But our friends there are
and
okay,
you guys have been back since the hurricane, right? I know your dad has.
We have. Yep.
You guys have too. Yep, you and Matt and the kids too, right?
Yep. We love taking
what's
the
it
kids.
like? Does it look like a war zone?
It did.
Yeah.
So the hurricane was September of 17. We went back March, April of 18.
Yeah,
and the devastation still is just.
It's going to be years. Right? People don't know what happened to those islands, they basically got wiped out
completely. There was yes.
Like the U.S. Virgin Isles, they had like a satellite view of them, and before the hurricane it was green, and after the hurricane it was brown. They said people that lived there said literally there was no leaves left on the trees.
No, it is unlike anything. Yeah, I mean, 200 mile an hour sustained wind, which is far more than anything that's typical. I mean, it broke the barometer on St. Bart's. Like, it literally broke the weather station. Like, the wind couldn't sustain it. So, the stories that we heard when we were down there, I mean, people say, like, we didn't think we were going to see the next day. I mean, every single person we talked to had stories of they're literally holding the doors on their house, like, with their bare hands. Oof. I mean, because everything else is blown out. They're trying to protect their loved ones.
Yeah.
But yet every person is like, but we're okay. We have hope. We're here today. And it's just polar opposite than what you would have expected. And so we went down, 6 months later, essentially, and restaurants are reopening. Stores are reopening. I mean, it's not at all the same, but the resilience and the mentality is just
Well, you
amazing.
mentioned the resilience. They have to.
Yeah, they have no choice.
That's their main source of income is tourism.
Right.
So you need people to come to that
The quicker they
island.
get up and running.
The quicker they get up and running, the more money that goes back in that. Because though the Dutch and the French own that, it's still an island in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So money
it's
is
an
not
8x8 island.
Money's not going to flow into it unless people are going to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So favorite place to travel to? I think
Martin.
we just I don't even know why I asked that
We've
question,
been to a lot of other great places.
Answered that.
I mean, and it's hard to compare like Edinburgh and places like I love Scotland, but St. Martin's just my favorite for so many reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. We went to Turks in July. It was awesome.
Your husband's a big fan of the Caribbean.
Yes.
In general.
Yep. We both love it.
Yep. He likes the beach.
It's our jam.
All right. I have to grab my beer.
Oh God. Seeing your drinking a
I just love the sound that this makes.
Island is ready.
It sounds great. It really does. It just sounds fantastic.
It does.
All right. What's your favorite beer? Because I know you drink beer.
I do drink
You're not
beer.
drinking on this podcast today, which is highly disappointing.
I know. I've been.
But if you don't feel good, that's fine.
Yeah. I've been sick on and off all week. And
all right. But what's your favorite beer?
Favorite beer. I mean, I love.
It doesn't have to be Charlotte. I want favorite beer.
No, but I love local. I mean, I gotta say Carib because it's St. Martin beer.
Okay.
Turk's Head Lager was also kind of delicious when we were in Turks and Caicos over the summer. But I mean, I love Captain Jack.
Captain Jack is again.
Yeah, it's a Charlotte beer.
Listen, I'm telling you,
too?
if you're listening from Old Mech, you need to get somebody that works there on this podcast. We need to
Hashtag Old Mech.
Again, I am not bringing people on here and they are forced to say Old Mech. I'm asking a very open question, and yet everybody continues to talk about Old Mech.
Well, it's our favorite brewery too, because I mean, it's kid. Yeah,
I didn't kill one of his questions. The second part of the question is what's your favorite brewery?
Yeah, Old Mech. I mean, mostly because it's kid friendly. I mean, when you're a parent, and I think for Matt and I, like working parents, that we don't necessarily. I mean, yes, like we want time away from our kids, but we also want to be able to go places with our kids and with our friends on the weekends, and Old Mech's easy for
Not that the others aren't, but Old Mech, with just the land that they have, that property that they own,
it's great.
It is convenient because I think all of them are kid friendly per se.
Like kids can come,
You
but
can
it's
come,
not
but
as
there's
safe.
no, yeah. I mean, you got a fenced off area
Right.
that has grass, and
Right.
it's just somewhere to go.
We also love going to downtown Matthews and going to Temple Mojo or Seaboard. I mean, it's
Seaboard's cool. I like Seaboard.
Seaboard is cool. Mojo's great too. It's a beer temple. So
Have you had the pizza out of that little shack?
yeah, it's the best. We get it every time.
So I saw a picture of
So
that
good.
the other day, and I was like, that looks fucking great.
It's delicious.
Yeah, is it
Pizza
good?
Exchange.
Pizza exchange, and it's a little hut.
Yeah,
like
literally.
a little shed.
And they just bring it right to your
And
table.
it's brick oven pizza, it looks like. Yeah,
we go down there with the kids on
Downtown Matthews is happening now.
Yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, we
Yeah.
go to Mojo often. Well, and it's great at Mojo too because I just say I want something light. Bring me what you have. So every time it's like I have something different, and I love a lot of those. I couldn't tell you the name of a lot of them,
That's fine.
but it's fun.
All right. You're the interviewee. What questions do you have for me?
Why'd you start a podcast?
I think I talked about it earlier. I needed some type of creative outlet to balance what goes on in my life. Right?
Why not a blog?
This is more fun. I get to talk.
Right?
Right? Like I get to have friends and people that might not think that they have a good story to come in and have a conversation with me and open up. And I talked to you about it before you came on. I said the best advice that I have for you is to come in, have fun, and be vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because if you're shut down and concerned about questions that are going to be asked, then you shouldn't come onto a podcast. Like I sit in here on a Friday morning before anybody else gets up in the morning, and I sit here and talk out loud by myself for an hour about the shit that's going on in my life.
Right.
And it's pretty freeing. And I don't care what people hear. You know, I'm cursing on here. I'm talking about my wife's butt, taking pictures of that and thanking her parents for it and whatnot. But this is my life, and I think it's interesting. And the best advice that I got when I sought out to start a podcast was there are so many people out there that just want to listen to somebody.
Yeah.
And if I inspire one person or I impact somebody or I make somebody laugh that I don't know or I do know, then that makes me feel good because my life to me might not be entertaining, but when I start talking about it, there's sometimes where I'm like, this is a fucking shit show.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny, especially being a dad and everything. So that's why I started a podcast.
So fun.
I needed something to do outside of work.
So then what's the biggest thing that's changed for you since you've been married? Pre-marriage, post-marriage?
Biggest thing for me since being married, so I talked about it, and when this airs, Lindsay will have already been on, and we talk about our marriage and getting engaged 2 weeks out of college. The biggest thing is the maturity aspect.
Yep.
Right? Like
hands down.
At 23 years old, I had another person that was
Relying
that I promised would be in my life forever.
Yep. Do you get the question a lot like, man, y'all were so young. Like, what were you? Do you get, I feel like we get ragged on for that a little bit. Like, y'all were so young.
When I tell people that I've been married 11 years, a lot of the response is, well, how old are you?
Right.
And usually they're expecting me to say, like, I'm 38, 39.
Right.
And I say, I'm 34. And they're like, you got married at 23? I'm like, yeah, I got married at 23. I think here in the South, it's not as bad.
Right.
But, like, when I go up to New York for work and I talk about that, they're like, people in their late 30s are like, I'm just thinking about getting married now.
Right.
Like, it's just a different way of life here.
But I consider it like one of my greatest blessings that Matt and I have gotten to grow up together. And I'm sure you feel the same way that like we were these immature college kids that, just it worked out that we, balanced it through college and balanced it after. And, it was something that, obviously we wanted to do. But I mean, I'm sure you feel the same way. Like you feel lucky to have grown up with Lindsay.
Oh yeah, I mean, I couldn't have done it without her, right?
Right.
But like for me, it was the maturity aspect of it. Like,
right.
You're 23, you can still live your 20s, but you're living it as a married person, not as a single person. So that changes a lot of your mentality around how you interact as a person.
Right. I mean, I think safe to say it's not because we got married that we happen to be incredibly mature people. I think that took quite some time.
It takes time
for all of us.
I'm the youngest of four. I was forced into a lot of. I think at times having to become more mature for my age than I maybe should be.
Right.
Because of the fact that my brothers are 13 and 11 years older than me.
Right.
And for them to be able to relate to me, I had to try and act as they were because you put a person like my oldest brother is going to turn Todd's 13 years older than me, so he's 47, 48,
Yep.
and I'm 34, so he goes off to college and I'm in first grade.
Yep.
Like he leaves to go to college and I'm a child.
Yeah.
To where now we're both grown-ups, and so like the thing that I've always had to do in my life is just try and be more mature, just to be able to relate to the people that are closest to me.
Right.
Yeah. It's the same thing for marriage.
Yep.
You're forced to mature.
Yep. Forced
All right.
to make it work.
Anything else?
No, thanks for having me on.
Again, you can go to her
This was
website, completeaba.com. And anything else that you need to... This is your time to plug.
No, this has been fun. It's fun to talk about, your work and for me, what I'm passionate about, but, kind of how it impacts my life. So I think it's been great.
Any advice for parents that might be on the fence of whether their kid is autistic or not?
Yeah. Ask questions.
Because I think it's scary for parents.
It's terrifying, but, whether we call it autism, whether we call it something else, if you have concerns, your concerns aren't going to go away, whether you call it something or not. So I think early intervention is key. That's what all studies show. That's what everything tells us, is the earlier that you intervene, the less the deficits will be. So yeah, be vocal with your pediatrician, be vocal with support groups in your community, and check it out and follow your gut for sure.
Do you think there's any reason why there's a rise in occurrences?
There's certainly a reason, but I don't really have an opinion necessarily.
Nobody really knows, right?
I don't really have an opinion on why there is an increase. I have a lot of thoughts on what does not cause autism, but that's probably for another day. But but I think there is an increase, and I think the other thing that I would love to encourage is for everyone to remember that you never know what someone else is going through. To be inclusive, to be kind, that what you say and how you treat others does matter. And so when you're next to a parent at the park and their kid's screaming, let's not assume that the kid's just being a brat. You never know what's going on. So I think be inclusive and be kind.
Ask questions.
Yep.
There's plenty of people out there to help.
Always. Yep.
Is that all you got?
That's all I got.
You did great.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye.